you don't want other people to have to get to the point that you got to in order to develop those boundaries. It's, you know, that wherever you can, you know, we can help people to establish those boundaries, you know, wherever they are in our lives. That's got to be a better thing. And the more of us that are confident in establishing them, and like you said, you know, it doesn't have to be sitting there with a checklist and ticking off when, you know, it can just be a conversation. Or, you know, if you go into a new job, having that conversation in your first couple of weeks when you're just feeling your way, and establishing expectations around, and you know, it's about expectations on both sides about when and where work stops. And ideally do that, and do that at the interview stage, so that you don't get yourself into an environment that isn't right. But it doesn't always.
Yeah, but also just stand up for yourself. You know, I think that's the thing, because there's there's like givers and takers. I mean, some people are just takers, and they will keep pushing so they can take. And their boundaries, they're well able to establish their own boundaries, whatever, or they don't think about it, whatever. And givers tend to give, and their boundaries can be very porous or flexible or whatever. But, you know, sometimes the givers have to stop giving because the takers never do.
Yeah, that's because, like say, half the time they don't even realize that that's what they're doing.
But also, if you don't say no, or if you don't say not now, how are they going to know?
Yeah.
How are they going to know? You know, that's the thing.
Yeah. And again, you know, if you work with somebody, and you know, you're on opposite ends of that spectrum, one of you is going to end up massively scarred by that whole experience.
Yes.
And it's not going to be the taker. So that's, you know, that's that bit. If you know you're in that relationship, and that can be really hard. So if you've been in that relationship, and that can be, you know, privately, at work, whatever, that can be really, really hard to suddenly say stop. It can take so much courage. But like you say, sometimes if people don't realize what they're doing, the minute you say stop can, in some circumstances, actually impact people so quickly. They're like, whoa, God, sorry, I didn't realize, actually. And then they're feeling terrible that they've been. The genuine takers don't, but
no, but most people are amiable to like change how they behave or show up, because you know, we all think about what we need in a moment, what we want done.
yeah.
And that's why we send our emails or we make our phone calls or whatever, because it's what we want at that time. But it's not always going to match across the way. And I think, yeah, there's just so many different ways of setting your own rules or thinking about how you want to work or what suits you best, and kind of setting things up like that.
And once you've done that, once you've got that, how would I like it to look? What would this look like for me if everything was where I wanted it to be? And I'd set those boundaries up. So this is my vision of what it looks like. And then just breaking that right down to what are the first little steps that I can take. So do that, you know, sit down and do that. And then say, right, what can I do today? It doesn't have to be the biggest, hardest step, just the first little step that can be something that maybe nobody else will even notice, but it makes a difference in here and helps build that confidence, and let you take the next step, and then the next step, and the next step.
And I like the way you say in here, because one of the things somebody told me once, which I thought was very helpful, is thinking kind of extremes almost. So, you know, what do I go yuck to? Like, what really irritates me at my core? You know, what can't I stand? And then the polar opposite kind of that is like, ooh, yes, wonderful. And, you know, somewhere in there, there's a boundary that needs to be set, because you never want to get to the stage where you feel like you have no choice, or that you're being kind of quashed down, or your integrity is being questioned, you feel resentful, you hate, you all of those nasty kind of feelings that none of us want to carry around with us, are probably a sign that you have a boundary being impacted. And the thing about a boundary, it's a boundary, not a barrier. And I think that's very important as well. I'm not putting up a wall to stop you coming in. I'm putting a boundary in to show you I can go this far, but that's far enough.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're taking too much of me, or I'm giving too much of myself, and I need it.
Yeah.
And another thing is just like, you know, if you don't want to do the kind of yum and yuck, you can do the like, what do I like or don't like? Or what feels okay for me in a work environment, what doesn't feel okay.
Yeah.
But I think they're very basic. There's nothing like rocket science about this. It's and I think the more you think like, ugh, or oh, this is brilliant, then the closer you are to knowing your boundaries.
Yeah. And it's not something that you have to go and read 17 of the best-selling books in that particular area in the self-help element of Amazon. It's that simple to sit there and say, what am I happy with? What is acceptable and what isn't acceptable? The work around building that confidence might need a bit of help and support, but the identifying what your boundaries are.
Yeah. And but also start with one that's really bugging you, because actually probably the space you give it thinking about how much it's destroying you is really taking up too much of your time as well, and is impacting lots of areas of your life. And so start with one